Welcome to Church Chats, everyone. It's a podcast where we talk about church, faith, and life with our friends. And we are here with our friend Matt Britt, who's the Director of Youth Ministries here at the First United Methodist Church of Fort Worth. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks for having me on.
So glad you could join us. And I mean, in the middle of the summer when you're super busy all the time. And
we leave on Sunday for our next trip.
Oh,
It's right around the corner.
So you just did Middle School Mission Blitz.
Yeah.
What was that all about? Like, where'd you do and where'd you
So
go?
Middle School Mission Blitz is our in-town mission trip for middle schoolers. I don't take middle schoolers anywhere out of town, at least not when I can avoid it.
Good call.
So it's their chance to get to experience what a mission trip's really about. We serve with a lot of really great organizations here in Fort Worth, Cherry Area Food Bank's Learning Garden, the Union Gospel Mission, our mission that's here on campus, the First Street Methodist Mission, as well as a couple other places depending on who's around for the year. But we stay in the Justin, we hang out there, we do all of our games and worship and sleep there. But it's their kind of first taste of this is what a mission trip looks like and feels like and can be like. And they get to experience I get to make a difference in my community in places that if I really loved being in the garden, I can go back there because it's just around the corner. Right. And so, it's a really fun trip. Normally a good bunch of kids, and this year was no different. So, it was fun. Exhausted as always. I'm now 30, so it's not as easy as it was anymore.
Your bones are starting to creak a little bit more.
I told Alex this when we got back that if I make it through this next trip on the air mattress that I've had for these first 6 summers, it's time for a new one. It's starting to do the thing where it deflates throughout the night. I wake up in the morning when my back hurts, and it's cool, I'm now old.
You got to switch to the cot. I feel like at a certain age, even though the cot is
so much more work to carry around, and it's creaky and
Yeah, but but you'll wake up a little more, not that sunken feeling in your lower back. I'm telling you.
We'll see.
The cots, man, it's the best. So, well, cool. So you're prepping them for a high school mission trip eventually, which you're about to leave on Sunday.
On
Where
Sunday,
y'all going?
6 a.m. Kids show up. I'll be here a little before then. But, we're going to St. Louis. So we're heading up, taking a bunch of vans up there. And so we're really excited. It'll be a really good trip. Most of our trips tend to alternate every other year so that kids get a different experience every time. Some years, like last year when we did Alamosa, it's mostly construction work. It's okay, we're painting a fence, we're rebuilding these garden beds for community garden, we're helping on this project or that project. Some years it's wheelchair ramps or whatever it might be. And some kids are comfortable with that. They know how to use power tools. They know what they're doing. It's a site that they're I get to see the difference that I'm making. And for some kids, that's a new experience. They've never had to do that before. And so we try and work in every other year a trip that's a little more relational, a little more working with organizations that are client focused. So this year we'll be doing some work with a pantry. Some of it will be with programs like Room in the Inn, where they're going to be interfacing with some of the members of the homeless community in St. Louis, as well as a couple of other sites that are more client focused. So it's more relational. It's less about construction and more about getting to know people and their stories and feeling connected to a city and a place and its people. And so this year's going to be a little more of that second one. We're going to be doing a little more of the kind of all right, it's going to be less construction work and more you're going to sit here and play bingo with an old person, and that's still work worth doing.
Right.
And so, we're really excited. A different group of kids will be uncomfortable this year. Some of our kids will be this is my pocket. Right. And so it'll be good. We've got a few fun activities lined up. We're going to go to the zoo because St. Louis Zoo is free.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So apparently the city of St. Louis has a park called Forest Park that is the second largest metropolitan park in the country behind Central Park in New York City.
Really?
And the family that donated it originally had this kind of agreement with the city in place that 80% of the activities on that land had to be free for the people. Okay. And so the zoo is on that land, and so it's free admissions to the zoo. And so on Friday, once we're done with our work week, we're going to go hang out at the zoo for a few hours. Yeah. And we're going to go do a museum, and we're going to do a few other things here and there. We'll go swimming at a local pool and stuff just so that a little evening, get out of the church that we're staying in. And so, it'll be good. We're really excited. High school mission trip's honestly my favorite trip of the year. So, it's always a good one. It's always one I look forward to.
You might be tired, but it's going to be the best trip of the year.
Yeah, and I think for me, high school mission trips were really formative to my experience growing up, and I'm sure we'll get into this later on.
No, go for it. Hey, this is That's what we do. We just talk.
So before I started in like full-time vocational youth ministry, when I graduated from high school and was in college, I was helping co-lead trips for the Dakota's Methodist Conference where I grew up. And so even like before I was working in youth ministry as like a career, I was still like doing high school mission trips as an adult volunteer.
Gotcha.
I would go and be the like worship leader and be on a work team and just be around. So I've always loved high school mission trips, and that hasn't changed. Like I still just always look forward to it every year. They're always good. They're always chaotic, but they're fun.
Oh yeah. High school mission trips was always my favorite too. And I'm a former youth minister like Matt, so we bond over that, like the battle scars and the good stories and the bad stories all the time. But yeah, I always remember thinking about, for so long, in leading a high school mission trip or being the youth director, it like you're kind of over programming and making sure everything is running correctly and everybody else kind of does the work team and everything. And I remember, I think it was 2014 or 2015. It had been 5 or 6 years since I had been on a work team.
Yeah.
And I just got to hang out with my 8 students and 1 other adult, and it was awesome. Like, it's just a different experience. And so I really like how y'all have set it up to where there's a certain kind of experience one summer, and then the next summer it's flip-flopped. And so and I like the way you're saying, I'm going to make the kids uncomfortable. Half of them are uncomfortable this way, but I mean, that's how you grow in your faith. That's how you grow as a person. So yeah, it's cool. I respect that model of how you're putting it all together.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is not a year where I get to be on a work team. I'll be driving around in the cargo van doing supply drops.
Oh, fun.
No, the rest of the teams are on crews, and so I'll get to kind of hop between a few here and there. So, I definitely miss that part of it. Like, I miss getting to be on work sites. I always joke with Alex and with like Kat, who no longer works in vocational youth ministry, but she's like, no, I just can't wait to go volunteer for youth ministry. Like, I don't have to be in charge of anything. I can just go like hang out and just be on a work crew and hang out with teenagers and like be part of their life, but not have to be in charge. Like, honestly, usually by the time of the summer sounds really great. Yeah, so for sure. No, it'll be good though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to right now with young kids, it's hard for us but as soon as our oldest gets in youth ministry, I fully plan on being that. Just tell me what to do.
I'll be here.
Volunteer. I'll just be here. I'll be there. It'll be great.
Yeah. There'll be a few years there where it's going to be like your kids and Lance's kids. That's and right, we'll have some staff kids around that I'll just make all of you volunteer for my trips, and it makes volunteering way easier. So. Oh
gosh, yeah. I think Virginia and Lance. I mean, we'll all just
all-star crews.
God, that'll be a terrible group of people, just
yeah, we'll see. I might have to split y'all and be like, okay, Clint's doing middle school, and Lance is doing high school, and
yeah, that's probably smart. So well, tell us more about so you grew up in South Dakota, and your dad's a pastor now, right? But he wasn't growing up, right?
No, so growing up, he was a middle school math and social studies teacher. So he taught at one of the middle schools in town, the middle school that I went to. I had him as a teacher. I did have to call him Mr. Britt.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so for, 23 years or something like that, was a middle school teacher. And then my senior year of high school, my dad quit being a teacher and became the youth pastor for the church that I went to. So all growing up,
he's just following you around everywhere. Like, you couldn't get away from him.
So like when kids are like, I don't want my parent around, I'm like, listen, I get it. And also I need volunteers.
Suck it up.
So my dad was like a huge volunteer for our youth program. Like, even from before I was in youth ministry, like when I was a little kid, there's pictures of me running around our church when my dad's like volunteering at youth group, and I was just around then. And so he'd been really involved for a really long time. I was kind of feeling this like call into ministry, and always had loved working with kids. It was part of the reason why he was a teacher. He was a coach, coached everything from track to basketball to volleyball, and just loved getting to like spend time around teenagers. And so decided that was a thing, and we had the opening, and they gave him the job, and I was so mad. It's like my senior year, and like my dad's gonna be my youth pastor. Like, I just
come on, man.
But he did that for a few years, and then eventually went through course of study with Garrett up in Chicago, and is now a local licensed pastor for one of the districts in the UMC up there. So
Awesome.
currently is now back around where we grew up, and so he gets to be back around old friends and people that we grew up with and families that he already knows, and so really loves it. But yeah, is now a pastor for a church up there.
Cool.
Which, yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. Well, and so you say he felt that call to ministry. At what point did you feel a call to ministry, like youth ministry in particular?
So youth ministry was the thing I never thought I was going to end up doing.
Okay.
When I was in, I don't know, early high school maybe, like a lot of people that end up working in vocational ministry, you have that like call experience at a camp or whatever, and I was no different. But by the time I got to like freshman year of college, I kind of knew it was going to be something in that realm, but I was a little disillusioned with like the appointment system in the UMC, and I love a lot of those people up there, but the Dakota's Conference was a place that I just didn't really feel like I was going to be a good fit. And so when I was an undergrad, I ended up doing more like nonprofit administration stuff and some business stuff, and did a lot of religion courses because it was just stuff that I was interested in anyway. But ended up graduating with a degree in, it's really long, so bear with me. It's Bachelor's of Arts of Christian Leadership with emphases in youth and young adult ministry, church planting and renewal, and globalization. So it's 3 different areas of emphasis instead of a major, because I took a bunch of other random things because I didn't know what I was going to be doing.
And they had to call it something.
And they called it something. They started the church leadership program when I was like a junior, I think. And so I just transferred over into that. I was like, yeah, I'll work in a church doing something or a nonprofit. I don't know. And so graduated and thought like, all right, like I'll look for a nonprofit job. And at the time, my now wife was going into grad school and got into a program in a very small town in South Dakota that has one of the universities, but it's like a true like Midwest university town where like everything exists around the university.
Yeah.
Like that is the center of the town. When college is in session, the town's population doubles. Like it's one of those. And there just weren't nonprofit jobs around, but I had moved down there with her and needed a job, and so spent the next 2.5 years bartending at like a college dive bar, which is like a really fun way to spend like 22, 23, 24.
Oh yeah, sure.
It was great. Had a blast. But when she was graduating, we knew we were ready to move. We wanted to be out of South Dakota and be somewhere bigger, and she wanted somewhere warmer, and I got more than I bargained for on that front. But
you did.
The exchange was tacos, so like...
Oh.
I think it comes out in the wash. Like,
yeah, I think so.
The tacos down here are just better than they are everywhere else. So,
yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take that.
What's your favorite taco joint?
Ooh, probably salsa limon.
Yeah.
Like I love just a good asada taco. That slaw is incredible.
Yep.
Like that's probably it. Torchy's is up there. They've got the best queso, I would argue. That queso with the Diablo sauce is great.
Okay. Yeah. I like Chewy's queso with a compuesto, where it's like they put the guac in, the pico, and then the meat, and then you just stir it all up. Oh, I love it.
And like at that point, is that even really queso, or is that just like a different sauce?
Yeah, it's like I mean, basically it's your nachos all in a bowl.
And
then
but then you can just dip, and then your chips don't get soggy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Taylor and I have. This is not our proudest moment, but we've gone. we went to Chewy's. Gosh, we were in our 20s, no kids or anything yet, and yeah, we went. We had the compuesto, and we finished it, and they said, "Are you ready to order?" And we said, we looked at each other. We'll just have another one of these.
Yeah, I just want another one of these right here.
And that's all we did. And then we went home.
Yeah. Yeah. I also do like Velvet's weekly tacos. Like,
oh yeah.
Something new, something different. They do a lot of weird stuff, and so like there's always something new you can try. So I like them too. They're a good little downtown joint. So, so we moved down to Texas, but I had legitimately no idea what I was going to be doing when we moved. Like Alex had graduated, had passed her certification to be a PA, had a couple of final job interviews lined up from when we got here, and I had nothing.
Yeah.
There was always an option to bartend or whatever, but 2.5 years, a lot of weird schedules and late nights, and needed something that was a little more fulfilling. Like felt like I was making a difference in doing something. And thankfully, when we moved, we were able to stay with Alex's dad. He lives just west of Fort Worth here, and we were staying with him for a little bit while we kind of got settled. And end of October, we had missed snow in South Dakota by literally a day. The day after we left, there was like it dumped 12 inches of snow or something like that. And so I woke up that morning. I was like, oh, look, it's snowing where we just left, and it's 70 degrees, and I can sit on this back deck and just drink my coffee and enjoy, not snow.
That's pretty great.
But got to spend a couple of weeks, like, just kind of figuring out what it wanted to be, and spent a lot of time just doing some soul searching and some praying and just kind of like, all right, like, what's the next thing? Like, what is the thing that I feel like I'm being led into? And the stories that just kept coming up were youth ministry related. A lot of them were high school mission trip related, like getting to spend time with kids and invest in them and those relationships that I gotten to build. But like, even back when I was in high school, people were like, oh, you're going to work in youth ministry. I was like, God, no. Like, I don't want to hang out with teenagers.
Right.
Like, nobody wants to hang out with teenagers. But the more I like really spent time trying to figure it out, like it all came back to memories of being in youth ministry and working tangentially in youth ministry. And so kind of was like, all right, like this kind of feels like it's where I'm being pushed or being called. So started poking around at job listings and spent the next 6 months doing interview processes and being unemployed, which is super not stressful. Yeah. But eventually got hired here in May of 2018 to work with Kat and Brenda and the rest of the youth team that was around then, and never looked back. So
that's awesome.
It's been a weird ride. It's been a wild ride. Not really a place I thought I would end up. Didn't think I was going to be here this long, but here we are with no plans to go anywhere.
Yeah,
so.
we're glad you're still here then.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about youth ministries with Matt here in just a little bit. And we'll be right back, okay? See you soon.